Hi, Alice here, and I'm with
Deborah, and we're talking about the Book of Changes.
written by Eve Smyth. It's predictions for 2025, I Ching. We left off last month talking about it's time to do a quarterly review of April, May, and June and see what kind of influences the collective energy of that time had on our lives. And then today, finish with talking about our entry into the energy of July. The chapter is called Restraint. We'll be headed into that conversation in a little bit. So the second quarter check-in, if you purchase the book, it is available through Amazon, and it's never too late to join in the conversation because this is an ongoing conversation, just like the energy rolls and ebbs and flows in our lives. It's chapter 11 for the second quarter check-in, and that's on page 67. When I looked at it, I actually am using my book like a journal. When I'm reading some of the reflective questions, I write things down. There were some questions about the second quarter of this year. Were feelings of fear or doubt around the successful completion of my intentions and goals? I thought, okay, now what? Then I thought, yes, I remember in the beginning, in January, in the first quarter, that was about setting intentions like planting seeds that were going to be nourished and get ready. And then in the spring, in the second quarter, they would become seedlings and they would grow and develop and things like that. So that was
How about comparison?
that's the comparison that Eve was using when she was talking about the different time periods and thinking of ourselves like seeds planted in the ground during the winter season, etc. So I was looking at the question about fear around my intentions and goals. And I had to say my answer was no. I didn't have any remembrances of fear or upset around not completing something. I know that historically there have been times where I beat myself up for not getting things done. I have my to-do list and all these things and slappered, what's wrong with you? Why can't you get your energy up? And then running in 6 different directions. But this time I have no sense of having had fear during this period over having to change an intention or having to take it off my to-do list or just having it incomplete. Just being okay with, okay, for now, I'm not getting it finished. That doesn't mean it won't happen, but it just doesn't have to march along on a specific timeline. What about for you, Deborah?
Considering the tradition of divination, the book is both a help towards guidance and divination. The two tumble around each other. It's the role of the person who's doing the interpretation to combine intuition along a track of divination to make a meaningful statement going forward. Like, where is this going? Is it taking me towards fear, away from fear, through fear? But balancing, as you said earlier, the different kinds of energies as well, collective energy, the energy of the collective balanced with the energy of the individual through this time. And I agree, the collective energy check-in pretty much summarizes that spring tradition that we've looked at. April, May, and June, and going forward from there into July. That's a good summary of that quarter. So we're actually moving, this is a change from the energy of spring to the energy of summer, starting with July and going forward from there. This was helpful to me too. The Book of Changes. It's all about change.
The change since we had our last conversation because we've gone through the death of a immediate family member. We've been to Ohio and back 2 times to deal with that and having a memorial service and just a lot of change occurring because not taking care of a handicapped brother-in-law and for my husband a brother now alters our way, our whole space around us and our mindsets and everything. there are all these habits that we had that are no longer valid. We don't need to worry about this, that, or trips. How are we going to organize a calendar? All of that kind of stuff is washed away. So that's a big change. And then there are all these little cascading changes that come out of that. That's really been what I've been experiencing since the middle of May. As far as time goes, my sense of time, I feel sometimes like I've lived 3 lifetimes in that period. I'm a person different 3 lifetimes down the road than I was back there. So been a profound change, and it will continue to roll out. As the book says, the change is never ending. That's the nature of being in the light here on Earth at this time. It's always changing. And now the weather, before we get into the weather, have you experienced the same thing? I know you experienced a couple of years ago, some profound changes in your life with your parents passing and those kinds of things that cascaded through your whole life.
I think for me, the change around that is accepting a kind of ongoing grief for my parents. My mother passed away about 7 years ago, my dad about 3 years ago, and over time I've come to miss them more, and I accept that. And I had coffee with another friend recently whose son passed away around the time that my mother had passed away. But she said, actually, she started that insight for me off by saying that over time she's missed her son more. And over time, one of the changes that comes with putting some distance between now and then, the change that was brought about by their passing away, you think that, and there is more of a comfort level for me in dealing with that, but also negotiating the fact that alongside that profound change that they're gone from my life in a big sense, but they're not. And I will always experience that level of missing them, coming to accept that alongside missing that there's missing them, losing them, and missing them, and continuing to miss them. And that's been a continuum for me. Learning to have some peace of mind alongside that has been one of the transitions that I'm going through, trying to level out somewhat with that. And alongside that, I had the gift of a marvelous dream where, again, I dreamt that I was with my parents. It was such a real dream. I'm so grateful for that. I'm still dwelling in that dream realm, that gift of their presence to me in dream time.
How beautiful to have that experience and to be able to remember it. I would assume that's one of those dreams you woke up and you're very clear. Sometimes I wake up from dreams and they just are fragments that fade away.
It's funny. I'm one of those people, I rarely remember my dreams, although when I do, it's significant. But the time when I do experience that lucid dreaming is right before I'll wake up. Because if I've slept too much, then in my dream, something repetitive and annoying and frustrating happens. Something cannot get resolved. And I realize A, it's a dream, and B, I need to wake up. And so in this dream, there's this lovely presence. I'm together with my parents in this truly lovely dream. And then things start to rumble towards frustration. And my dad and I began to disagree, which is something that we would do. We had different takes on if we were doing a project and putting something together, we would disagree because my dad's take was follow the directions. And my take was get it out of the box and let's just start putting it together. And we would disagree on this. And in the dream, we started having this kind of disagreement. And I realized it's a dream and it's time to wake up. But it was a lovely way to realize that and a lovely way to wake up as well and to let go of their presence.
A couple of things that I wrote down here. The questions in the second quarter reflection. What did you learn about from the energy of April, May, and June? I went back to look at April, and what I learned from April was it sure is easy for me to get out of balance doing things like taking on projects, got to get them done now, blah, blah, blah. What I learned from it was it's okay to be more selective and that I have this mindset. I knew I had it, but it was more in a concept. This is becoming an impediment kind of mindset. And that is, this is the last phase of my life. I need to get these things done before I die. So I push and I take on more stuff. And it's one thing after the next, on and on. And I thought, I just need to let that go. It hasn't been as hard to change it as I thought it might be, because sometimes mindsets, they're just like automatic behaviors. You go, something happens, there's a trigger, somebody says something, you see something, whatever, and boom, you're back in that mindset, going down that track with thoughts and plans and ways of being. But this one, I'm just now exploring. If the last phase of my life, so what? I'm going to have a good time. I'm going to celebrate every day. That's what I've gotten to, is that I'm just happy to be here. I want to be here. And it's not all about getting all these things done. It's time to just groove with the music of the world, of the spheres.
That brings us right to July with the emphasis that July places on restraint. And as you were talking about letting go, it made me think of the other topic in that month of July, which is realignment. Restraint leading to realignment. Restraint not leading to losing something so much as reorientation, so that you are in alignment with your goals, your purpose, or just having a good time, like you're saying. And that brings us right into July and July's energy.
That's great that you would pick up on that, because I noticed that I was talking about April and the mindset, and then there was May and June, but it's been a cascade from April to May to June, getting to this realignment and this restraint and refocusing, rebalancing, and getting clear on values. What do I want to spend my time on? And I have the choice how I spend my time. I'm not into a 9 to 5 job. That was a choice too, and that defined a lot of my life for a long time. But I noticed that at the bottom of all of it is having conversations with friends, getting to visit and be with friends, reconnecting with extended family in Ohio. And that opens up another whole world of possibility. And just enjoying realigning myself with my gardening rather than having all these projects and go every day. The pleasure of being out in nature, my hands in the earth, in the soil, with the energy of the plants and the birds, the butterflies, the pollinators, all of that. I really do value all of that. And with my gardening, it's beyond just growing pretty things. It's helping the earth, establishing in my little area a habitat, an ecosystem, a safe place, a place that nurtures all the little things and us too. It's been very free to be able to do that. I have this YouTube channel called Garnier, and I have a link to it below if you're interested. But I've noticed a shift in how I present some of my information on my videos to talk more about together as a community. We can take care of the pollinators. We can reestablish habitats. We can have healthier soil. So that's been a shift.
Alice, I was going to say, I don't want to sound like a fangirl, but I admire your YouTube channel, and that is important to connect with the soil, to connect with the world around us, one butterfly at a time. And it's hugely important. We had 2 trees actually smashed over into the building next to me from my neighbor's yard, and I was able to persuade management here for our building to get those trees off the roof of the building. The trees have got to be moved, but I convinced the guys who were taking the trees apart to use them to line the back of the parking lot so that the trees can begin to disintegrate. You know how bugs love bark that is rotting and falling apart. And here in Atlanta in the summer, stuff falls apart very rapidly because of the amount of rain, the humidity, and the heat. It's just a bonanza. And I'm so grateful that I was able to persuade them not to haul stuff off, but to leave it in place. It's going to look a little bit unsightly for a while as the leaves begin to brown and curl and fall apart. But in the long run, it's going to become a nursery for insects, which become a buffet for the birds. And that's very important going forward. That process of letting stuff happen and trying to focus on the happiness of the garden, the paradise that we create on this earth, the paradise that we struggle to create in the day-to-day time of our lives. That's so important going forward.
It's been a wonderful way to express and share information with people, just like what we're trying to do here to share information and insights and some of the things that we've learned, if it's helped us rebalance or understand how we're approaching things and giving us the opportunity to make a change if we need to, or power forward that we're on the right path. I know that in the first description of the collective energy of July, it was like a tension, like a storm building. And it's so interesting because we're in hurricane season. Plus, you all up in Atlanta, we're having storm after storm, a lot of weather patterns. And then there are weather patterns all over the place. And that's how it's been feeling since the last half of June. I had an innate sense of more tension in the environment. I remember talking to my husband, we've got to get our water supplies in. That's hurricane preparedness. But it was awareness and knowing that it's time to hunker down to get prepared. Is there another area where I need to be prepared? That's a question I'm dwelling in right now. And I'd say probably yes, there are. Looking at my health and saying, I've been running along on autopilot and now I need to prepare and get refocused on just maintaining the integrity of my health and my routines. And then friendships. And I want to spend time with the people I love. I want to be in conversations like you and I are having here, meaningful conversations with people that I love. And I want to do things that I love, like gardening, even if it's only 45 minutes. So what do you think, Deborah?
I think that your mention of preparedness is in alignment with with July's focus on restraint or constraint. And sometimes we look at restraint or constraint or discipline as a limiting factor. I think it can be limiting in the sense that the wall of a dam is limiting. It builds up water and it redirects it. So it's a question of alignment. Restraint, I'm going to pull back from going in 360-degree directions, which is my nature, to go in everywhere at once. And I'm beginning to think as I grow older that being younger, I had more time and energy to do that crazy lifestyle of going everywhere at once. And getting there in the end and accomplishing a whole lot of stuff in the process, but trying to become more focused and to align with a more disciplined approach. That's not a bad thing. Sometimes we look at that word discipline and a lot of people do have a negative association with that word, but for me, it's more of a gift of being focused, the gift of focus, the gift of alignment, the gift of checking back in to reaffirm what my overall purposes happen to be and trying to honor that and stay within some of those limits. And I tend to think, even though I've been removed from the glory of the snow in the mountains of the West for decades now, because I've lived in the South for decades now, but I always think of the skier doing a slalom, a downhill race where you have to honor those gates. You have to ski around those boundaries to stay the course, and you have to respect the restraint of the course to get there. Respect for boundaries overall, and honoring your boundaries as a way of moving forward toward the purpose that you want to move towards.
Exactly. Which is the huge step towards having your life align. If you respect the boundaries that you need, that you've recognized that you need and you want to put in place, because it's easy to walk over them. I know the other concept was frugality that was brought up in this and how it could be a negative, but I've never thought of it as a negative, maybe because I grew up in my grandmother's house and she was a survivor of the Great Depression in this country. And she was very, very frugal. So I grew up with that. And I never thought about it very much. It was just a grandmother saves all of the wax paper, reuses it, or the tin foil. I've come to think about frugality in terms of living within the boundaries. If I have certain boundaries and I choose to live within them, then I'm being frugal with my energy, with my well-being, and with my finances. When you read about the frugality part, what was your impression, Deborah?
This is a really nice aspect of this July chapter. The book emphasizes frugality with respect to the notion of feeling contentment. Frugality it's another restraint, but if we can be in harmony with that restraint and be content with what we have, that's a good thing. If I can be content with what I have. Several of my friends have gone to, in the past month or so, they've gone to Portugal and they love it, raved about it. A few weeks ago, I stepped out of my car in an area where I've parked my car for years, actually near Emory, and I noticed that there was a little stream under a bridge near where I parked my car. And for me, just seeing that local stream was such a revelation that I'm content with that. I wouldn't trade that for a trip to Portugal, although I understand the benefit of travel, which actually I've stepped away from. I'm tired of traveling. I want to focus on what's right here. And I'm grateful to be able to have that focus and to see stuff that's right in front of me that I tend to overlook sometimes. I'm happy right here. I'm really grateful for that gift, along with having a lot of enjoyment and hearing my friends' stories about their travels. That's the best of both worlds, is letting the other guy do all the worry of the passports and the long flight time and everything. I'm happy right here, and I'm happy to hear about your adventures as well.
Looking really quickly at the July takeaways here, save for the future. I think that comes under the discussion of frugality. Preparedness, we covered that earlier in this conversation. Examine your boundaries. We've been talking about that. I got to that, and in my book, I put a big circle around it. When I came to it, find contentment, what you've just talked about, with the life that you have. Be here, be content. And the last one was the illusion of entitlement. Those are the takeaways for July. And we're now at the midpoint of July. Anything more to be said about the collective energy of July? Do you feel that we're still in the waves of more uncertainty and chaotic, stormy things? Is that starting to dissipate a little bit?
No, I think the chaos will always be with us. I love that dragon on the
Yeah.
cover of this book. It occurred to me I should find contentment and some peace of mind in being the chaos that I live from day to day. That's a good summary of July. You've mentioned the issues of restraint, frugality, being prepared for change. It's called the Book of Changes because change happens every time you turn a page, I think literally and figuratively. Hopefully, as I grow yet older, I can feel more at peace with that change.
Maybe it is a choice in the moment to approach it that way. When you were talking about the cover, you were looking at the dragon, and I was looking at the energy waves behind the dragon. And that to me describes where we are right now in July. And I don't know if that also represents when we get to the end of 2025, if we're going to look at that and say that was most of 2025 in terms of energy waves or not. Anything else that you would like to add?
Oh, Alice, anything else come to mind?
We might take a minute to look at recognizing when the energy starts to shift into August. I'm just going to read that the transition to August will feel like the excitement of travel. When we feel that from the environment and the things that we're doing and the people we're interacting with and all of that collective, then we'll know that we're starting to move into the energy of August, or we've already moved into it. Sometimes I find I wake up and it's, whoa, wait, I'm already here in this other energy. I'm not moving into it. It's already enveloped me. The currents are there, and how am I going to show up in the currents of this time? So thank you, Deborah. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today, and you can still buy the I Ching, link for Amazon below. One thing you may find helpful if you've been following along with us is that Eve has a Substack blog, and I'll put a link to that below. And she puts at least once a month or twice a month a post about the energy, the I Ching. It's a further discussion, and you may find that interesting. So just a heads up on resources that are available. We will be discussing August next time.
Happy changes to you.
Thank you. You had this wonderful slogan, I change I Ching or something like that.
We changed.
With I Ching. That's a great way to say goodbye. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and see you next time.
See you next month.